Hello students, this is our third part of our first chapter of NCRT book, that is the last lesson. In the earlier two lectures, we had studied about this chapter. A little boy is going to the school and he is late for the school. After reaching the school, he learns from the professor, or you can say teacher, that this is going to be the last lesson of the school in French, because after that they will be forced to study German. And the experience of the child, um, regarding the teacher, and the fact that his province Alsace was captured by the Germans has been described in the chapter. So now let us start. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day, M. Himmel had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand. France Alsace, France Alsace. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the hung from the rod at the top of our desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some details flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them. Not even the littlest ones, who worked right on tracing their visuals, as if it was French too. On the roof of the pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? So, in the paragraph, the writer has described about the atmosphere of the classroom at that time, and the teacher M. Himmel had given new copies to the students, in which it was written French Alsane and French Alsane, and everyone was busy doing their work, and there was no sound over there. Everything was very quiet, only the sound of scratching of the pens over the paper, and everyone doing their task was there. Even the Beatles came in, and the students did not put any attention on them. They were busy with their own work, and for once the author looked at the pigeons, who cooed very low, and thought that, will they even make the pigeons sing in German? So these are the thoughts of the author. Now let us move ahead to the next paragraph. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Himmel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing and then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everybody looked in that little schoolroom. Fancy, for 40 years he had been there in the same place, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him, just like that. So now the author is describing the teacher. The teacher is very emotional right now, because this is going to be his last lesson, and after that he has to move on to the countryside, because he has served for 40 years in the classroom as a teacher, and also there are many memories attached with the students and the classroom. So uh, there was also a garden outside the window, and which is described in the later part of the paragraph. So now let us see what is that. Only the desk and the benches had been burned smooth. The walnut trees in the gardens were taller, and hope vine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. So, here the desk and the benches have been described that they have been worn out. The walnut trees have grown far taller, and the teacher had planted a hope vine, correct? And now it has also grown. All this has been described to show that the teacher has spent his life almost over a year teaching the students, and now it is very difficult emotionally for the teacher to leave the country the next day. Now, moving ahead to the next paragraph. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, we had a lesson in history. So, the teacher has been described over here that teacher had the courage to cope up with the situation. And the teacher took a lesson in history after the writing lesson. Then the babies chanted their Babi by Boo Boo. Down there at the back of the room, old Hosser had put on his spectacles. The picture of the old Hosser has been given over there, and holding his primer in both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying. He was also very emotional at that moment. His voice trembled with emotion. It was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. All the students were also very emotional at that time. They were laughing as well as crying. Ah, how well I remember it, the last lesson. So the lesson is remembered by all the students and of course the author. We will end the lecture for today. Thank you.